Hello there, everyone. My name's Tommy,
And my name's Aaron.
and we are here on our Super Pod Saga, the podcast where we're going to talk. It's our saga to talk about every topic in the history of the video game world. And
We'll,
today
we'll
is
do it.
today is May 15th, and our topic of the day is drum roll, the Nintendo Wii. Because this was my week to pick the topic, and just looking at today's gaming landscape and looking back at the Wii, it's just kind of the more you look at the specifics of the Wii, the crazier it is as a system. Like beyond just the motion controls. There's a ton of things about it that are just wild that we're going to get to. And I didn't know this, but you never owned a Wii, Aaron?
No, I remember for when that generation of consoles came out on my birthday, my dad was like, "Okay, do you want a Wii or do you want a 360?" And I was like, the Wii would be cool because what was it? There was like that one Red Steel game with the katana that sounded really really cool. But then I was like, no, I should probably 360.
You were the only
Oblivion.
person in America who was like, "Oh, I'd really love to play that Red Steel."
I probably was. It looked really badass, but I guess it was awful.
I had a similar thing the generation before. My mom was like, "Do you want the Xbox or the GameCube?" And I knew we didn't have much for money, so I was like, "We can get the GameCube." And it ended up being awesome. I loved it.
Dude, it really was. I get yeah, I don't want to get too off topic, but yeah, like if the GameCube had a DVD player, it'd be perfect.
If only they made tiny DVDs.
I know they should have.
So to start with the Wii, I think I want to start off with kind of where gaming was at that point. Before the Wii era, it was the PlayStation 2, the original Xbox, and the GameCube. And correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't the GameCube technically the most powerful graphically?
That's what they say. Yeah, the PS2 especially was the most underpowered of that generation, and the Xbox was just like it was just leagues beyond both of, well, maybe not the GameCube, but the Xbox was pretty high up there.
Yeah. Yeah, Nintendo had like a powerful, beefy machine, and they finished
Mhm.
third in sales, I'm pretty sure.
Yep.
And Microsoft revealed the 360 first. I looked it up. They revealed it on MTV, on some show on MTV in 2005. And then Sony revealed the PlayStation 3 at E3. And those were just beefier PlayStations, beefier Xboxes. And then Nintendo was like, nah, screw that. Check this out. Do you remember seeing the Wii for the first time at E3 or wherever it was?
I
What
remember, yeah, at the time
what
it was called like
what
the
was your thoughts when you
Revolution or
first yeah,
something.
what were your thoughts when you first saw it?
Like I remember there being rumors of it being motion controlled and all that stuff, and I was like, that actually might be like really really sweet. Like yeah, we could throw a Pokeball, or we could like if they do like Punch Out. But I remember it sounding really cool, and then it came out, and I was just like, eh,
I
maybe next year.
I was the opposite. When I first saw it, I was like, Nintendo's lost their minds. They've gone insane. This is insane. Like, first of all, even the name, the Nintendo Wii, going from Revolution to Wii is like, I'm like, this is the worst named video game I've ever heard. And usually I don't care, but Wii just sounds crazy. And
Yeah, yeah.
and and the motion controls are obviously the things people remember the most if you're too young. Because I realized this while thinking about this. I had coworkers who were born in like 2000, 2001, so they were only like 5 years old when the Wii came out, which we were in
Oh my
high
God.
school. But it's a on your right hand is like a remote shaped device with a big old A button in the middle
Hmm.
and a D-pad and a one and a two button on the bottom, and you can turn it to the side. And then
Don't forget the
you
plus and minus.
Oh, yeah, the plus and minus as well. There's plus, minus, 1, 2, A, B. And then they had the nunchuck, which had the control stick on it, that you plugged in to the bottom of the Wii remote. It just sounds insane. How do you
Don't forget
go
about that
from,
wrist strap.
and it's got a wrist strap so that you don't lose it, but it wasn't on the nunchuck, and the nunchuck had the C and Z buttons. And just the GameCube controller I loved. I think that's probably one of my favorite controllers. Going to
That
that to the
definitely
the
is.
Wii, insane. Absolutely insane. Do you remember your first time playing a Wii?
I do actually. My So of course, in little town Chatsworth, my
Mhm.
cousin up the street had a Wii. I would go up there all the time to play that. Oh man, play. Yeah, Twilight Princess for sure. I remember playing a little
Ooh.
bit. Um,
My first
oh,
experience, speaking of small town, was at my small town. It was William who had one. And
yep,
I've never hung out with him before, but he was like, "You want to come over and play Wii?" And I was like, "Sure, yeah." And it was
yeah.
just mind blowing playing Wii Sports for like 3 hours, just tennis, bowling, baseball, over and over again. Like, it's hard to imagine now because so many things have motion controls, but just doing
Mhm.
that for the first time, just swinging the tennis racket and just being able to wave it around, it was like, this is unbelievable. This is technology that shouldn't exist.
Like the whole home menu thing was really cool too, because it was just a
Yeah.
uh little like channels or whatever. They had one for like news and like, of course, being a Chatsworth, not very many people had internet, so you couldn't really check a lot of that stuff out. But it was awesome, and the Mii's for the first time. The Mii's for the first time.
You're saying so many things I want to talk about. I
I
forgot.
know, right?
The remote has a pointer. So when you set the console up, you plug it into the wall, plug it in the TV, and you got to put the sensor bar above or below the
Oh yeah.
TV. It's just two infrared lights that tell you where the pointer is because you can point at the screen and do stuff like that. Again, insane, but it worked totally well. It was great. It was
Really
awesome.
did.
And some people, I learned, did you ever see that you could just have two candles set up too? So like if you lost your sensor bar, you could just put two candles up by your TV and you could use your Wii with that.
I have never heard such a thing, but
It's
that's
true.
really cool.
I've seen video of it.
What?
Yeah. And now the Switch, somehow you don't need the sensor bar, but you can still point. Not many games use it, but you can do it.
Yeah, I don't even know how they do that. Maybe it's done with like the 3DS. It's like gyroscopically,
Yeah.
like maybe that's what they have with the Switch. I don't
And the channels, another cool thing. I really like the channels. I'm surprised more things. Again, if you've never played a Wii, Nintendo went insane and they're like, this thing doesn't just play games. We've got the weather channel, we've
know.
got
Mm-hmm.
the news channel, the Me channel. There's other ones I'm sure I'm forgetting, but they just had different channels for these random things. Like you could just I remember going on the weather channel and just spinning the globe around and being like, what's the weather like in Kenya? Let's zoom in on Kenya. Ah, it's raining. Cool, cool. And just
Way to go, Kenya.
yeah, just all these random things. And the Mii's. Did you spend a bunch of time making Mii's?
Yeah, as goofily as I could, give them like the biggest afros and like the wonkiest looking noses and stuff.
they it was so much more thought out than it needed to
Oh
be.
man.
Like Microsoft and Nintendo, they had their little things where you could make your own people, but Nintendo was like, here's a channel, you're gonna have a top-down view of all your little Mii's running around. Sometimes
Oh
strangers will
yeah.
come in.
And you can
Sometimes
have a
strangers will come
parade.
in. Yeah,
Yeah.
they'd have a parade, and you can download Mii's. You could like search for the most popular ones. There was always Hitler's, always Obama's, and you could download Mii's, and then you could play with them in Wii Sports and stuff. So it'd be next up to bat Hitler. They're
Oh,
just,
what
oh
a
my gosh.
wild time.
And since for that thing you needed internet, which Aaron said like internet in 2006 wasn't as everywhere as it was now. Like
Mhm.
we at my house didn't have Wi-Fi. We didn't have a router or anything. So that's just like that was kind of the norm, I feel like back then. So
Yeah.
Nintendo released for people who didn't have that, they released a product called the USB internet connection thing. It was a
Mhm.
USB stick that you plugged into your computer and it would connect to that to get internet to the Wii. That's what I had to do to connect my Wii to the internet. Connect my
Yeah,
Wii to the internet.
that's what my cousin had to do as well too. Is yeah,
Yeah.
God, it's so wild to think of a time where we didn't, where like Wi-Fi wasn't the standard.
You wanna hear another crazy thing about the Nintendo Wii?
Ready?
It had so the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5, I believe, has 1 terabyte of internal memory, which is 1,000 gigabytes. The Nintendo Wii had a system memory of half a gigabyte. There is. So you could fit 2,000 of the Wii internal memories in today's Xbox Series X. It's just
Holy shit.
not something that they really thought of because they didn't have downloadable games right away, I don't believe. I think that was something they
No?
were planning on, but like
Yeah.
that was WiiWare. Do you remember WiiWare?
Yeah, that's something I'll cover a whole bunch of in one of my topics, one of my little points.
Ooh. Okay. Well, the short talk about it is like because again, nowadays people just release games onto the platforms and it's a PlayStation
Mm.
5 game or it's an Xbox game. But back then Nintendo was like, well, we have to separate it. You can't just call it a Wii game. So we'll have this WiiWare service. So if you release a digital only game, it's a WiiWare game. It's not a Wii game, it's a WiiWare game.
And
And
yeah, and back then too, it was so different to be able to buy a game like digitally, like through a digital storefront, as opposed to like going to GameStop or whatever. Because like the previous generation, obviously, you had to go to an actual store to get a game.
mhm.
But back then, it's like, what? You're telling me I can just download a
Yeah,
whole game like on my couch? Great, yeah, internet,
I
but yeah,
I remember telling friends, I was like, look, this isn't even on a disc, it's just here.
yeah. You don't even have to boot up a disc every single time. Just hey, do you guys want to play Donkey Kong Country or whatever? Like, you bet your ass.
I had oh, gosh darn it, what was it? It was one of the first WiiWare games. Hold on. We Oh my gosh, I gotta remember this. World of Goo. World of Goo was the first downloadable game I ever downloaded and played.
I
It
think that was
was
also one of the first games that came to Switch as well.
oh, it wouldn't surprise me. It's a good game. It was a little puzzle solving thing, but just again, it worked really well with the Wii because you could point and move the balls around. I don't want to go too far into World of Goo, but it was like it was made for Wii, even though it wasn't. Um,
That's what I felt about a lot of pretty much any game that came out. It's impossible to imagine any game with motion controls without motion controls, but I guess they have done that now with quite a few games. But
yeah, and going back to the controller, do you remember any super unique uses of there was a speaker in the Wii remote. We don't want to forget that. There was a speaker in it so that sound could come out because why not? Do you remember any unique uses of that? I've got one in mind.
yeah, so not from personal experience, but like this is mainly from like a dude I watch on YouTube sometimes. But there was one game he was playing where you have to answer phone calls from ghosts or something like that, and basically you would like of course you'd hear it ring through the speaker, and he'd put the Wii remote up to your head and act like you were talking on the phone, like interact with you in the game and stuff. And
You
that was
that's
pretty wild.
That's almost exactly like the one I had. I had Rayman Raving Rabbids, which was which is like a Mario Party game, but single player and and with mini games and stuff. And one of the mini games was you have a minefield. It's a top-down view, and there's a minefield in front of you, and you're Rayman, and you're carrying a pig, and this pig can sense where the mines are. So you would hold the Wii remote up to your ear and move him with the stick, and as you'd move it, if you were close to a mine, the pig would squeal into your ear. And that was just one of those things where it's like, this can't be done anywhere else. This is the only way that I can experience this pig minefield game.
Not to get off topic again, I remember I had that goddamn Rabbids game for the PlayStation 2, and it was just
What?
they cut they cut the number of mini games in half, of course, because the PS2 don't have that Wii remote, so it was
I
just
didn't even know that
awful.
came out for PS2.
Yeah, it was
Oh my
terrible.
gosh, it did.
It was just god awful.
That's disgusting.
It really was. It was like if you made a peanut butter and jelly, but then just plastered it against the side of your head.
Unbelievable. Ooh, I feel gross now.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got another insane thing that the Nintendo Wii did. So
Mhm.
when the PlayStation 3 came out, the first first cycle of them could play PlayStation 2 games. I don't remember, could Xbox 360 play Xbox games?
They could, but it was like very, very few.
Okay. And Nintendo was like, yeah, so we've got this new console, it's got a new controller, new everything, but maybe you want to play GameCube games too.
Oh
So
yes.
so there's a panel on the top of the Wii, and if you flip it open, it's
Hmm.
got 4 slots for GameCube controllers and GameCube memory cards. So you can just hook them right up. Why?
Why not? You're goddamn right.
I know
Wait,
it was cool. I used it. I absolutely used it, but it's just so crazy to think about. It'd be like if the Switch could still use Wii remotes and you'd
and
have
that
to
was
plug them in.
that was around that time where Nintendo was really all about backwards compatibility too, because if you think about it, like what was it, the Game Boy Color could play Color and Game Boy games.
Yep.
Game Boy Advance could play, you know, obviously Advance and then Color and whatever games, and then the 3DS could play DS, DS could play Game Boy Advance, yada yada yada. But
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
This
that
is
was yeah.
super random, another total tangent. I had the Guitar Hero game for DS. It had,
Oh God.
did you ever see that?
Yeah, it was like four frets or whatever, and you could
Yeah.
like hold it all weird.
And you'd plug it in. It had like a Game Boy cartridge input that you would slide into the Game Boy slot in the DS. But they eventually released the DSi, which removed that. It didn't have that slot anymore. And I remember reading an article, they were like, they went to the developers and they're like, so what are you gonna do now that the newest DS models don't have that? And they were like, well, we're done making Guitar Hero games for DS. They're like, there's nothing we can do now. And they did. They didn't, because I can't imagine how that would feel, being like, we spent all this time making this plastic add-on for the Nintendo DS that you could play Guitar Hero, and then they just go and make it obsolete.
I love the idea of that conversation. They're like, "Wait, what do you plan to do now?" We don't. All right,
Yeah.
peace out.
Um, Speaking of the evolving digital world, Netflix was a thing that came into existence around that time. Did you
Oh
ever
yeah.
see someone use Netflix on the Nintendo Wii?
I I don't think so, actually. Was
Me
it?
either, because you had to buy a special disc that you had a Netflix disc that you had to put in the Netflix, and it had to be, or in the Wii, and it had to be running for you to use Netflix digitally on the Wii.
What the heck? Okay, nah, yeah,
It, yeah, you can Google it if you've got time, but yeah, just do like Netflix Wii disc.
I'm gonna do that right now.
It had to, yeah, do it. I wanna hear your
That
thoughts.
that's so wild.
Instant streaming disc. Use every time to watch instantly. Do not return disc to Netflix.
I'm looking at it right now. I love that disclaimer. Do not return disc to Netflix.
It was a different time. Totally
That'd be
different time.
that'd be kind of cool to just to buy, just to have, be like, now I can watch Netflix on the Wii.
I think they eventually made it so you didn't need it, but at first,
Oh, okay.
that's what it was. Um, d- do you remember? I just remembered this like yesterday, and I'm so happy I did. Again, new digital age, people are playing online games with each other for the first time, and obviously, if you're playing with friends online, you want to communicate with them. Do you remember what Nintendo's solution was for that?
That I don't know actually.
They released, because again, like I played Call of Duty World at War on Nintendo Wii with a friend, and people wanted to communicate. So what they had, let me make sure I get the name right. Hold on. Dang. I should have looked this up. It was the Wii Speak is what it was called. It's a little, it's like a just a little, I don't even know, half circle thing that you plug into your Wii and you put at the base of the TV. And
Oh,
it catches the sound from the room, so that anyone talking with the room, it gets sent over, because Nintendo was terrified of children talking to strangers with a headset. They never released a headset for the Wii, so they had this so that the sounds from other people would come out of your TV and your sounds would go into the TV, so that if parents could hear what was actually happening in their kids' games.
I remember that now. And God, it just with how many people nowadays play games online and like their entire family and their dog is in the background, the whole like, yeah, that sounds awful.
Yeah, even worse. That was man, just
How was it, Tommy?
I didn't have it. I actually
Oh,
I don't know if you remember Rodrigo. He was a couple grades below us. He
I think so.
had
Red, yeah, yeah.
he had a Wii with Call of Duty World at War, and he was in my hometown. So instead, we bought a pair of walkie-talkies, and he had one at his house, and I had one at mine, and we would use those to communicate where people were. It didn't work the best because you already have your two hands holding the Wii remote and the nunchuck. And
Oh man,
I just want to say another thing is that, believe it or not, first person shooters were best played on Wii, and I will maintain that
I
to
could
this
imagine
day
that. Yeah.
because, again, you could just aim at the screen. So you could just instantly
Mhm.
aim and shoot wherever you wanted. And did you ever play any shooters on Wii?
I played a little bit of the Resident Evil 4 port to Wii, and I can't think of the name right now, but it was a rail shooter. Um,
Was it one of the Dead Spaces? That one had an on-rail shooter on Wii.
it might have been. I'm pretty
Um,
sure it was Dead Space actually. Yeah, Dead Space
they
Ignition or something.
the first person shooters on Wii went absolutely insane on having settings that you could change for like the dead zones, how fast you turn, where you have to aim to make it turn. I've never seen settings in a console game like they did for the Nintendo Wii shooters. It was you could customize absolutely everything.
I don't think I've ever seen that on like a console like rail shooter game or anything like that before ever.
Yeah.
Usually it's just like how fast do you want the cursor to move? All right, confirmed. That's it.
Yeah, gosh, what game was it? It was the Nintendo Wii FPS the something. Oh gosh, I had Metroid Prime 3 and I did not like it.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
It was too scary for me.
Oh man, me. Oh my gosh. So me and my brother Devin, we kind of we played the Metroid Prime 1 and 2 together, kind of like what would happen would be like you would take turns playing and then the other one would just watch and be there sitting there with like a walkthrough open because we were
Hmm.
kids and didn't know
Mhm.
like where to go and stuff. But man, yeah, those were so
I'm sure it was good, but at the time I was just a young, impatient
good. Young
gamer and I
pup.
didn't know anything about Metroid.
Man,
There was a
those were
time
good.
when I had the Wii where like and I had a job, so every single payday I bought a new game just to buy one. Even if there was nothing I was interested in, I was just like I have to have a new game. So I ended up with so many games that I played once. But that's
That sounds like me
also
right now.
That's also how I bought Mario Strikers Charge. That was one of those I just gotta buy something, and that ended up being like my favorite multiplayer game ever.
I think. Oh man. Oh, I'm still struggling to think of like what. I'm pretty sure we played a lot of a Dragon Ball Z game on there because I remember like you would do like the hand motion for like a
Oh
Kamehameha
no.
or like you would do like the hand motions for like the other different moves and stuff for like punching and stuff. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty damn sure that was a thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I had a Harry Potter game, and oh man, Harry Potter,
Nice.
it was the fourth one. Let me see if it was only on Wii because oh, I got to type in game.
Oh, oh, and carnival
The,
games.
the
That was one of them also.
carnival games.
Carnival games.
We
Yeah.
can, we gotta talk about that. The Wii was the worst I've ever seen of shovelware. That is where the term shovelware came from, was because of the Wii.
That
Just
was yeah, that was actually that was one of my topics because there's just so much trash. They just oh like there were so many different like rip off party games that had like no effort put into them, and the mini games are just boring and just stupid. Oh god.
they barely function. And what like if you're wondering why did they make so many, why would they even do that? It's because they sold really well. Because the Nintendo Wii was insanely popular it reached more
Mhm.
households than any other console up to that point. And so old people were playing video games who hadn't played video games before, and they were like, I love this. I love throwing this skee ball down the thing. It feels great.
Oh man, that reminds me of when I worked, there was a call center I worked at in Sioux City that did support for like Xbox Live and stuff like that. And so many older people called in saying that they loved Peggle and stuff like that.
Peggle is
But
fun.
I like Peggle too. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's cool.
Peggle's
All right.
It was the Harry Potter game I was thinking. It was Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. Listen to this. This game was released for mobile devices, Nintendo DS, PlayStation Portable, Microsoft Windows, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, Wii, Xbox
Oh my
360,
god.
Game Boy Advance, and Mac OS X. What a
I feel like
wild time.
that's how everything was back then. I remember oh, it was um there was one Sonic game that came to Game Boy Advance, and then like that generation of consoles, and then the next generation of consoles. I have to look it up.
It's weird because now we don't have anything handheld except for Switch, and Switch is kind of like a home console. So like it's just games basically release on everything, but Game Boy Advance, DS, oh my gosh. Um,
It it really does. My God. And then sometimes even when you're playing the Switch in handheld, like it do get kind of heavy. Like you'll kind of like
oh
your
yeah,
hand might start to cramp up a little bit. Be like,
for sure.
I'll just I'll just eat a whole box of Cheez-Its and wait for my hand to uncramp.
One thing I thought was really interesting. Oh, I wanted to tell the story of when I got my Nintendo Wii, because
Okay.
I want to I just like painting a picture of what things were like at the time. Because the Wii basically sold out everywhere like right away as soon as it came out. But it wasn't like right now in 2022 and 2021, people are finding it hard to find consoles, but that's just because there aren't enough. With the Nintendo Wii, there was plenty of them and everyone wanted one. It wasn't like there was a
Yep.
shortage, it's just that everyone they sold was going to people. And my mom worked at the local Walmart, so I got to know when the shipments came in. And so I got to be in line nice and early to get the first of 30 Nintendo Wiis that came in that shipment. And that's small town Iowa, where this small town Walmart is getting 30 and they're selling out right away. So just imagine what it's like in the bigger cities where they're probably getting like hundreds and thousands that are going away right away. It was so
I've
crazy.
I've always thought of that. Like how did people ever get their hands on consoles in like New York City or like Los Angeles? That's so crazy to try to think of.
What was the worst Nintendo Wii game that you played? Not like broken, but just one that like could have been good but wasn't. If there even is one, because I know you didn't own a Wii.
I mean trying to think. I know there were quite a few like my cousins and I always played like fighting games together, and oh my god, what was the name? There were quite a few fighting games that we played on the Wii that were just they either didn't work how you expected them to, or they did work but they were god awful. And now that I think about it, I think it probably was like another like Naruto or Dragon Ball Z game or something like that. But um, god damn, it was just like it would be like wave your hand to like throw a kunai or something, and you would have to like you'd be flailing like ever so furiously in like 16 directions, like throw it now.
Yeah, that was a big thing with the Wii was when the games didn't work, it's the most frustrating thing because you're actually moving your arms. And so it's like it just makes you angry. And I have two examples. One I had thought of before and one that you reminded me of. The first one was the first time I played Okami was on the
Ooh,
Nintendo Wii. Have you
yeah.
ever played it or heard about Okami on the Nintendo Wii?
Oh yeah, a
It,
buddy of
it
mine
was
had it on the PlayStation 2, and I
yeah,
watched him play it a lot. It was
yeah.
awesome.
PlayStation 2 would be awesome, but it was broken on the Nintendo Wii. The
Really?
Yeah, because you draw on the screen for attacks, and for whatever reason, it just didn't connect what you were drawing. I got to a point where, like, to defeat a boss or an enemy, you needed to draw bombs, and I would draw a bomb and let go of the button, and it would just poof into smoke, and nothing would happen. There was no, I mean, like, there was internet back then, but there wasn't like I wasn't able, for whatever reason, I wasn't able to Google to see what was going wrong. And I remembered this like a year ago and looked it up, and other people had the same issue as me, where it just the drawing was insanely like broken. It just didn't work most of the time. And so I
That's
never played Okami then or again.
that's so crazy.
And
That just seemed like a game that would be made for the Wii, because
yeah,
because you
exactly.
draw.
Yeah. And the other one, I was a big college football fan. I still am. And so I had
Mhm.
a college football game on GameCube, and it was great. And I'm going to talk about a thing with that in a later episode. But they also released one version on Wii, NCAA Football 2009. And in every way, it was worse than the previous generation of games. It had like it looked worse. Somehow it looked worse. Like the Wii isn't powerful, but it looked worse
No,
than GameCube games, and it didn't have all of the features, and it was one of my worst Wii purchases. And of course, it's got the motion controls. They didn't work all the time. Ugh.
I'm not. So
They
I'm trying
even
to.
they even
um,
like every other version had like a football player on it, a big muscular football player. And on the Nintendo Wii cover, it was a mascot holding up a number one, and it says NCAA Football '09 all play. Ugh.
I'm going through this app that I use for like my game collecting garbage. I'm going through it through the different Wii games to try to like remember myself or try to remind myself what games my cousin and I played.
Mhm.
And I'm maybe a third of the way through this, and there's so too many games for this thing. There's a Hell's Kitchen game for that goddamn thing. Burger Island, Chicken Shoot, Ninja Bread Man. Oh
Ninja
my
Bread
god,
Man. Oh, this is um oh
dude! And
another
there's so many Cabela's games.
and I'm sure they all look like garbage. It,
They probably do.
man, I wish I still had my Wii. I ended
Oh,
up
oh, Tommy,
yeah.
they have The Bachelor, the video game.
I have actually seen people play that on a YouTube channel I watched. They played the Bachelor video game, and it's not good. It's not good.
I
I
would
tried it.
expect
My
it to
wife
be.
is the biggest Bachelor fan, so we watched it, and she was just getting so furious. Um, Another thing that should be mentioned about the Wii is how the controller evolved throughout the time because it did. It didn't just
Mm,
stay like it was. The first round had like the Wii strap that he mentioned, but those
mhm.
ended up breaking, so they had to make new ones with stronger straps that had like a mine had just like the slidey thing where you just slid the thing back and forth, but that would just like loosen up. And then the later ones had a clip where it would clip to hold it.
Yep, I
And
remember that one.
they released the Wii, what did they call it? The protective thing, the rubber thing around it.
I
What was the
forget.
official name?
I forget, but we called it the condom.
Yeah, that's what everyone called it, was the Wii remote condom. I gotta look up what it's actually called. The
They'd be like,
Wii remote safety jacket?
that sounds dangerously close. That's gotta be a safety jacket.
It feels gross to hold, but it's like this big chunk of rubber to protect you and other people around you from
I
hurting
remember it.
them.
I remember it being really like weirdly rounded at like where
Yeah.
the very tip of the remote would be. So
Yep.
it was pretty phallic. It was pretty
Oh, extremely. Um, Before I had that, I just had a memory come in. I had a baseball game, MLB The Bigs, I think it was what it was called. This is the only time I damaged something while playing the Wii. I swung and missed on a pitch, and I struck out, and I got mad. And I made a habit of like, because you can, if you have the wrist strap on, you can throw the remote and it won't go anywhere because it's tied to your wrist. So you can like
yeah.
throw it anger and it'll be fine. And I threw it up instead, and I hit the ceiling light at my grandma's house and shattered the light. And I felt like a total ass. I was like, I'm sorry, Grandma. I was playing a video game and I got real mad.
Oh man. jeez, I don't think I've ever done anything like that. I know, like whenever I get mad, I just like I'm like, come on, and I'll like punch my leg. I've never like thrown the
Yeah,
damn thing before.
I had a roommate in college who broke multiple Xbox 360 controllers because he'd throw them on the ground when he got mad.
Oh, speaking of that, I had this like really sweet like chrome blue controller for the 360, and then I remember I had just bought the first Dark Souls because it was on sale for like $5. Got to this like butterfly moth or whatever boss, and I got so pissed I just slammed the controller onto the coffee table and it broke. And I got
Oh,
even more mad.
the coffee table or the controller?
Oh, the controller, my bad.
Okay.
The controller
I
broke.
was like, if you were super mad. Okay. This is another totally random thing, but I don't know when it's gonna come up. There was a guy from our school who was on our baseball team named Josh. He was a grade below us. Josh is so vague, but if I said his last name, you'd know for sure. But it's not super important. But he missed a few games of the season because he was playing Grand Theft Auto on his PlayStation 2, and he something happened that like scared him or like made him jerk. Like you know when you do, like when something happens and your whole body jerks, and he strained a muscle in his hip and couldn't run for about a week.
What the hell?
Yeah, video game injuries, they're dangerous.
Oh, they are.
Anyways, going back to the Wii controller, later in the cycle, they added the Wii Motion Plus, which was
Yes.
a little thing that you plugged into the back of the nunchuck that gave it
Hmm.
even more motion sensitivity. And in my experience, it didn't do that much.
It was slightly. It was maybe like 5 to 10% more
Yeah,
accurate.
yeah. I got the one with the Tiger Woods golf game, and I was like, yeah, I
Nice.
feel it feels a little better, but it still doesn't feel perfect. It doesn't feel like you're actually golfing.
Didn't they also make new Wii remotes that had that in it or
Yep.
something like that?
Yep, they were already built in, and they came with the extended Wii condom because the first ones were only normal size, but then you've got a bigger Wii remote, so you gotta have a bigger condom.
That
I
reminds me. Have you ever heard of the Sega Genesis Power Tower?
yes, I think so.
Oh man,
Is that the
look,
where they attachments on attachments?
yeah, dude, it was like so it'd be obviously the Genesis console, and then you got the 32X, and then the Sonic 3 and Knuckles, and then the other Sonic 3 and Knuckles cartridge, and then you pop like a Game Shark or whatever into that, and holy cow.
Oh, I'm looking at it now. It's like when they do the all the attachments to the Game Boy those had. Those are fun too. Um,
Look at that
speaking of
thing. It's got this. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, speaking of attachments, that's another thing that the Wii had was an insane number of accessories that you could attach to it. There was
There
like
really was.
a full-size bowling ball that you could plug your Wii
What?
remote into. Yeah,
That I
yeah,
didn't know.
yeah. Remote bowling ball. Let me see if yeah, I'm looking. You gotta Google it real quick. It's a
I
full-size
just
bowling
I
ball.
just found that stupid. It's got buttons on it too.
It's a real thing. It's a full-size bowling ball controller, and it's even got a plug-in, so you can plug the nunchuck into
So hold on. So you take it apart, you put the Wii remote
it.
in,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
you just hold it like you don't roll it actually, but you just kind of like
No.
act like you're gonna bowl.
Yep.
Well, all right.
I had genuinely a cool thing. I had a thing that made the Wii remote and the nunchuck wireless, so that they weren't connected by that wire between it. You plugged the receiver into the Wii remote, and then the cord from the nunchuck, it wrapped around the base and then plugged into the thing, so that it would be wireless and you can move your hands around whenever. Sort of like a Nintendo Switch controllers.
That's pretty cool actually. I
Yeah,
mean, it
that
sounds like a pain in the ass kind of, but it sounds cool.
it made playing Raving Rabbids when you got to pump your arms so much better. Because you're not getting tangled in the cord. Did you ever play Guitar Hero on the Wii?
Um, I played it on like everything else, like literally
Oh
probably
man.
everything else except for the Wii. Was it that different?
Yes, yes. Speaking of games that were best on Wii, I think Guitar Hero was best on Wii because it had a little slot where you would open up the back and you would put the Wii remote into it. You'd plug it in and put it in there. So when you'd make a mistake, the sound would come out of the Wii remote speaker, like at the where you're strumming the guitar.
Oh,
And it made it way heftier too. It didn't feel like you were holding this hollow piece of plastic. It felt like a full weight guitar, and it would vibrate and stuff too along with the beat. It was really cool.
that's
It's just
cool.
a little bit more immersive.
There really was other ones. It was just like it was just the guitar itself was just its own like controller pretty much. Like, you could play other games but with the guitar if you wanted to, but that does sound way better.
Yeah, and do you remember? I want to say the Wii was the one where you. Gosh, I don't want to be wrong. I remember the Wii you could tilt the controller up or the guitar up, and that's how you'd activate star power. I don't remember if that was a Wii only thing because of the Wii remote, or if you could do that on the other ones too.
That was the same on other ones. Yeah, you could.
Okay,
I don't remember how it registered it, but yeah, you could tilt the guitar up, or there was
okay,
another button you could press that would do it.
yeah, but that's not as fun. That's not as cool.
That's not. You don't get that vibration. I don't want
No.
it.
uh Rock Band never came to Wii, and I wanted to
Shit.
play Rock Band, so I did what any sane person would do, and I just bought a PlayStation 2 so that I could play Rock Band. That's that's what I did.
Rock Band is pretty good though. I remember maybe like Rock Band 3 where you could like make your own characters, and they had like just a ludicrous amount of downloadable songs like from damn near any kind of genre that had a guitar loosely like in it. Like it was pretty it was badass.
I listened to a podcast where one of the guys worked for Harmonix, and he has literally he's a drummer in real life too. He has every single song that has ever come out on the Rock Band downloadable service.
Oh my
And
god.
so he said when he has to load up the game, it has to load up all of the songs that he has downloaded. So it takes at least an hour for him to even be able to start the game.
That's that's a video game, all right. That
Yeah,
sounds awesome.
that's video games.
God damn it,
You can
dude.
still they're still releasing songs for Rock Band every week.
What? Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Let me Rock Band
Why?
DLC songs. Because
That's
that
like
one guy is still playing it.
that's like you remember that one Just Dance game that came out not too long ago that also came out with the original.
Yeah.
I think it was like 2021 or something.
Yeah, where there's still sorry, I'm reading about yeah, January every single week. Last week, 3 days ago, they released I Won't Give Up by Beartooth and Pretty Mouth by Girlfriends on Rock Band. So
Nice.
you can play those. Um sorry, what did you say again? Now that I'm done reading that absurdity.
No, you're all good. I mean, this is just as absurd. They're still releasing Just Dance games for the Wii.
I think
Just
the
Dance
last one
2020.
yeah, but that just again, so many people had the Wii, so many old people. I think that's something that I don't know if they still do, but that was a big thing in old folks' homes, retirement homes, was the Nintendo Wii, because they could get the people to get up and get moving, which is great. That's
Oh
awesome. I
yeah,
love that.
yeah.
And I'm excited. Okay, this is gonna sound weird, but I'm excited to maybe one day end up in a retirement home because there's gonna be other people that I can just game with all the time.
That would be cool. It'd be like a frat house but old.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure it's gonna be horrible and miserable and lonely, but
Just like a frat house, though, honestly.
yeah, exactly. Um,
Do
oh,
you
sorry.
do you
Yeah, you go.
remember that weird like skateboard peripheral that came out with like Tony Hawk
Yeah, Tony
8
Hawk
or
Ride.
Ride? That's what it was. I knew it was something.
And Tony Hawk was so proud of it, and it didn't work from what I understand. It just completely didn't work.
It was just so weird. You just stood there on a skateboard and you could hop and you could like move yourself and it would kind of work in the game, but it definitely wasn't as
Yeah,
good as just popping off all those combos on a controller or something.
yeah. Because the big problem is when you're riding a
You should.
skateboard, you actually like jump and stuff, but you can't jump with this board on the ground. You're gonna break it. Just a weird idea.
There's a
Um,
lot of weird ideas for that console.
yeah, seriously. It's all full of weird. But yet, I think one of the coolest enduring things about that was how like Microsoft and Sony saw the success and were like, we got to make our versions of this. So Microsoft made the Kinect and Sony made their Move controllers. I only played a Kinect game once for like 30 seconds. Did you have a Kinect or play Kinect games?
I played a couple of Kinect games, and it was such a pain in the ass to like, because you have to calibrate each game before you play the game, and that in itself is always such a pain in the ass. Then you get to play the game, and it was still a big pain in the ass.
Yeah, I played Sonic Ride and I tried one thing and I was like, this is neat, but there are better ways to do this.
Oh, man, I think it was uh Connect like Adventure or something like that. I forgot, but yeah, it was. It didn't work.
No. And then the PlayStation Move was a technically better, uh, more accurate because they had a camera as well. They had an actual camera, and then on the end of the the Move controller was a big old glowing ball. So if the camera could see that ball, it was incredibly accurate. It was very, very accurate. But I'm a big baseball fan, so I had MLB The Show, and you could use the Move controller. And when you're holding it behind your head. So it couldn't actually
Oh,
see where it was. So when you would try and swing, it just didn't work. But the other, I only had a like sports collection and it worked fine for that. That was decently, but it wasn't fun. It was like it wasn't as like ingrained as the Wii remote was for those games.
those little PlayStation Move controllers looked pretty cool too. I remember somebody playing. I think it was like some. Oh, what was it? I think it was. They were playing Uncharted or like one of those big PlayStation games with the Move or something like that.
Yeah. The the biggest thing I didn't like about the Move controller was when you're holding a PlayStation controller, it goes X square triangle circle around like a diamond. And on the right hand of the Move controller, instead of it being a diamond, it was a square. I
Huh.
have to even look up the order. So I didn't know like when to hit. Yeah, it went. So on the left side is X on the bottom, square on the top, and on the right side is triangle at the top and circle on the bottom. I don't know why you would
That
change the order.
that would completely screw. Like people complain a lot about like how going from a console to console they'll forget the buttons, but
Hmm.
like they're pretty much the same no matter what, except for obviously when it's in this in this hellish square.
Yeah.
Why would they do that? I mean,
I
maybe you could like hold it sideways. I don't know.
yeah, I don't know, it's
Maybe for
weird.
flute.
Um, but those were the PlayStation 3. I should say the launch PlayStation 3 controller also had the smallest amount of motion sensing. They called it the six
Mhm.
axis, but that didn't have any uh what would you call it? Momentum. It was only tilting and turning the controller to tilt and turn things. It could only tell which direction it was facing, not if it was moving. So
I remember that.
that felt real poopy too. I don't even know of any games that I use. Oh, Heavy Rain. Heavy Rain used the motion controls. So like if for quick time events. So it'd be like move the controller up and you'd move the controller or like brush your teeth and you'd move it up and down. So fun.
I remember when they showed off like different tech demos for the six axis stuff, and there was some like Ace Combat like jet pilot game where you use the six axis, and that looked pretty badass. But I guess yeah,
Or
you wouldn't like really be able to move it.
yeah. Or Lair. Do you remember Lair, the dragon game that was supposed to be a big deal and the controls didn't work?
I think so. Let me look that up. That
Oh
sounds
my gosh, they've been
really
making
cool.
games for a long time. That was their
Where
last game. They had been making games since 1988. Factor 5 was the name of the studio, and then Lair was the last one. Wow.
whoops. Yep. Okay, I remember this. Yep. I remember
Um,
hearing about this a lot.
the the reason you hear me talking about PlayStation 3 is because eventually I sold my Nintendo Wii and all the games to purchase a PlayStation 3 when it's a big mistake. It was a big mistake. When I
Yeah. No, I
when I
feel
went
that.
to when I was after graduating high school and going into college, I got in contact with my future roommate and we were just talking and he's like, "What do you do?" And I'm like, "I like baseball and video games," which hasn't changed since then. And he was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
cool. I play games too." He was like, "Do you have an Xbox or a PlayStation?" And I had to be like, "Oh,
I'll be like, huh?
I actually have a Wii." And he was like, "Oh, that's cool." Like he didn't even consider it as an option for what I would be playing games on. And eventually it got to be too much for me. Because I don't think we've talked about it, but Nintendo Wii didn't have any quote unquote hardcore games. They didn't have like all the Call of Duties came out on Xbox and PlayStation, all the Uncharted's and Halos and everything. Nintendo just had Mario and Zelda, which people love now, but back then being a college student, that was really lame.
Yeah, I remember that being like a big negative among people back then too. They were just like it's not hardcore enough for me. I'm a hardcore gamer. I play hardcore games.
I tried so hard to make the Wii work as a hardcore system. Do you remember Mad World?
Yup. I remember that
It
was like
was
what the only M-rated game for that console.
I don't think it was the only one, but it was the most M-rated. For those who don't know, which is probably everyone, Mad World was supposed to be the most violent game on the Wii. You're playing as this dude in a game show where you have to murder people in the most creative ways. And
Oh
because the
man,
because the Wii was so bad graphically, everything in the game was black and white and the blood was red. So all you would see was black and
nice.
white and red. And I played the whole thing. And so it used the motion controls, so you'd like choke people out or hit them over the head or snap their necks or throw them onto spike things. It was it was not good. And then the Conduit was the Wii answer to Halo. It was an exclusive first-person shooter for Wii with aliens and stuff. And I remember bringing my friend over to see it because he played Halo and stuff, and I was like, "Look, the Wii has shooters too, and it's cool." And it had a
Oh yeah,
scene where
shooters.
an alien burst through a wall, like a giant one burst through a wall, and the graphics were so bad. It was so embarrassingly bad. There was no smoke or anything. It was just like these chunks of wall that fell off and disappeared. And I was like, normally it doesn't look this bad. And he was like, yeah, okay. Hmm.
Man,
Just-
wish I had some of those glorious moments.
I know.
Damn it, I should have gotten a
I was
Wii.
genuinely surprised that you never owned a Wii because you're the most Nintendo person I know.
It's weird. I guess I was kind of like an on again off again because we had the NES and the SNES, but then I didn't get the 64. I got a GameCube, didn't get a Wii or Wii U, and then I went right to the 3DS Switch.
Hmm.
I don't know what happened there, but yeah.
Yeah, I never had a Wii U either. I never even thought about getting a Wii U after the first month and everyone was like, "Oh, there's no games for it." Um, oh, excuse me, I keep burping all of a sudden.
Me too.
Do you do you remember, I barely remember this. Do you remember the Wii Mini?
That was like the digital only one, right? It was like a perfect square.
Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
had to read about it because I never remember this. There was no disk drive. There was no GameCube port. It could not no, it wasn't digital only because it couldn't connect to the internet. Let me look it up real
Oh,
quick. Because I wrote this down, so it has to be true. Uh, Internet capabilities were removed. GameCube controller and memory ports were removed.
yep,
It
no
only
backwards compatibility.
it cannot output 480p.
What 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 does it
Mhm.
output then?
I guess 720. That was oh man,
Oh no, yeah.
that was at the time before HDMI or like on the turning point. So like that was the red, white, yellow cables that we don't even do anymore. Oh, what a time having to reach my head back to make sure you're plugging it in right. Good
Oh,
times.
and making sure your TV's on channel 3 or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
That's what-
Man, crazy. I had that was I think we went through every talking point. I Oh, nope, nope, I got one. Did you ever see the classic controller?
Oh, I think so. I
So,
thought it was like the Pro controller. Maybe that's like the same thing
no.
though.
I think there's a different one. Wii Classic controller. It looks not good, I think. But the weird thing about it is like with the Switch Pro controller it just hooks up to the Switch. The Wii
Yeah.
Classic controller, you had to plug it in to the Wii remote. So you just have the Wii remote sitting next to you as you had this other normal looking controller plugged into the thing. And it had sticks like the PlayStation, which I don't remember. Had them both down like that. Weird.
And does it have the cord on the bottom like the
Yeah,
Dreamcast, or
yeah,
is
the
that
cord comes out of the bottom, not the top, because I don't know.
that's so wild? I mean, yeah, that's the one I remember. Okay, maybe I'm thinking of like I think the Wii U had a Pro controller. Maybe that's
Yeah, I think,
yep.
oh,
There we
didn't
go.
people really like the Wii U Pro controller? Or am I just thinking of the Switch one?
The Wii U one
No,
wasn't
no,
bad.
people really like the Wii U one. Yeah, that one had the unique stick settings with them both being up.
Oh, okay. I've got a good Wii topic for you.
Okay.
Uh, have you ever heard about like that one like the solid gold Wii that they gave to like I think it was like the Queen of England or whatever.
No, what are you talking about?
Oh man, so there was some golden Wii. I forget why they even were going to give it to Queen Elizabeth. I think it was for like some publicity stunt or something. But it was 24 karat gold, and it didn't. I don't even think it ever even like made it to the Queen because it got stopped by like security and stuff. Um, and then somehow it ended up popping up on eBay maybe like a few years later, and then someone
I'm
bought it
reading.
for.
Sorry, go on.
No, I was gonna say somebody bought it for like a pretty hefty amount of money, but that's crazy.
Yeah, I'm reading about it in this article that was published last week. Uh,
Yeah.
Bankrupt game developer THQ intended to deliver it to the Queen in 2009. It was the system was meant as a promo piece for the game Big Family Games. Oh man, weird. That's so weird. It actually looks like it's heavy too. Like that's solid gold.
Yeah, and it didn't even make it to her. Security was like, nah, B, you turn that shit right around. And then it ended up on eBay somehow.
I remember just another huge turning point or huge. This is such a small thing, but it was huge. You could turn the Wii on with the power button on the controller. Revolutionary. Just
That
being able
was
to sit there
revolutionary.
and turn it on. Because back in my day, you had to walk up and go and hit the power button to turn it off and on.
Dude, and then back then too, consoles had a reset button instead of just power.
Yeah, a reset button, which
Like I'm pretty sure the
because
GameCube had a reset button.
it did. It was scary because the power button like held in, you would click it in, but the reset button didn't. It would just go, it was like a button. So
Yeah.
like it didn't even have that feedback, so you could just accidentally do it. Um, was the only purpose of that just so you didn't have to hit the power button twice? Why was there a reset button?
Um, I don't know. I mean,
Yeah,
maybe it was just because it was like I guess power cycling it real quick. So yeah, you didn't have to do it twice.
a
Maybe.
relic of an older age.
God, reset buttons. Oh, did you ever invest in like the Wii Virtual Console back in the day?
Yes, I forgot about that. The Virtual Console was Nintendo's first foray into releasing older games on a new system. I bought Paper Mario. I think that was the only Virtual Console game I bought, and I played most of it. It was really good.
I remember when it like hearing like when it was announced that they were gonna discontinue the eShop for the Wii. I remember looking into like the Virtual Console for that. that little bastard. And my God,
It's
there are
got
so many
everything.
consoles available for it. It does. It's got TurboGrafx 16, but it's got Neo Geo. It's got it's got everything like Sega Genesis, everything. It's crazy.
I I could be wrong, but I believe the Wii U is the only console that you can purchase every single Legend of Zelda game, including Breath of the Wild.
That actually that would be right. Yeah. I mean, it maybe I don't know about Game Boy Color games though. Maybe you could.
Wii U,
Oh,
Game Boy Color.
I think
Hold
Game Boy
on.
Color games were only on the 3DS virtual.
Okay, almost every. But that's where you can buy the most Legend of Zelda games. So it's something
Yeah,
like that.
that that's absolutely the most. Yeah.
But it's so frustrating now because Nintendo's policy for buying old games is pay a subscription fee and get significantly fewer games than we previously had.
And the virtual console was such a cool thing too because I I enjoyed the ones that they give us every now and again, but just like I don't want all of them. Like I only play like maybe a select few on the Switch online things. Like every now and again I'll play there's this game Musha. It's a vertical shoot 'em up on the Sega Genesis. Like I'll play that for like an hour and then get bored and move on. Or like I'll play like a little bit of Earthbound. But
Yeah, yeah,
God,
that's exactly what my experience is with Switch. Is I'll try something and be like, "Yep, this is an old game," and then never again.
and what? Why haven't they done? They've never done a GameCube Virtual Console yet, and I don't see why they don't. There's so many good games
That'd be
on that
incredible.
goddamn system that
That
would
would make me
be
so
awesome to
happy.
play now. Yeah.
Imagine if I could play Pikmin. Wouldn't that be crazy if I could play Pikmin?
I mean, you could. That was another one of my talking points too. Actually, was all those games from the GameCube that they like kind of redid for the Wii with like motion controls. I think it was called like Wii Motion Plus or no, not Wii Motion Plus. Sorry. New Play Controller is what it was called.
Oh, yeah.
And they made
Oh
I
my
think it was like
gosh.
Pikmin 2 with motion controls. And I think like Metroid Prime 1 and
There,
2 or something like that with motion.
yeah, there was only 7 games. Chibi Robo, Mario Tennis, Metroid Prime 1 and 2, Pikmin 1 and 2, and Donkey Kong Jungle Beat.
That was I mean that was kind of cool. Like
Oh,
if you had never played those before, but I mean yeah, now you totally play Pikmin now.
if I had a Nintendo Wii, I could, but I sold it for a PlayStation 3.
Yeah, I remember I forget I think I was in high school. I ended up selling my GameCube and all of my games for a PlayStation 2 because I was like
Oh,
parts. And
I,
what a mistake that
I,
was.
I had a Nintendo 64 that was gifted to us way past Nintendo 64 era, so it was, and but gosh, I want to say that was when I had the Wii, so it was mid 2000s, and I never played it, so I was like, let's take it to Sioux Falls and just sell it. So he took it to Last Stop CD Shop and
Oh man, I remember that
the
place.
Nintendo 64 and all the games. And I went to the bathroom and I was like, Mom, just hold on to these. I'll be right back. And I go to the bathroom, come back, and she's like, they bought it. And I'm like, oh, okay, they bought all of it? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, how much did you get for it? And she held up a $20 bill. And I was like, what? And she was
I
all
remember
so happy.
that's I remember back when yeah, those were good times. Selling like even if it was like oh man, what was it? I remember back in the day selling there was some game on the Xbox 360 that was like
Halo, Gears of War.
no, I think it was like Tales of Vesperia or something like that. I remember selling
Oh.
that to GameStop and I was like, I just need to get rid of it so I can buy the new Borderlands. And they were like, okay, here's like $40. And I was like, huh? The game was like 5 years old. I was like, what? You sure?
Yeah, GameStop used to be awesome. I used to love going to GameStop just to like experience it. And I would sell games, buy games, all that stuff. And now I never go to a GameStop. I mean, obviously you can buy games digitally now, and that's normal, but like I don't know, it was just it was a different thing way back then. Did you love going to GameStop or is that just me?
No, I definitely loved to. Yeah, I mean, um, growing up pretty goddamn broke, like that was the only way I could go and get
Yeah.
new games. Because like I didn't really ever get new games for Christmas or anything like that. It'd just be like,
Mhm.
oh, dude, let's go to GameStop, and then I'll get a new game and like play the absolute piss out of it, and
Yeah.
then just go sell it.
Speaking of getting games for Christmas, my entire life, my grandma has had a no video games policy for birthday and Christmas presents, and I don't understand why. She's never been able, I always ask her, she's like, I don't want to get you video games. I'm like, that's all I want. It's all I've ever wanted.
Like I don't want toys anymore, Grandma.
Don't you understand? Oh, I this is not even video game related, but I don't care. I read a series of books called Redwall, and
Oh
I
yeah,
I had the first one and I loved it, so I wanted more. And so I was like, Grandma, give me any book. They're not chronological, so you can read any of them in any order. And I was like, get me any of them. There are like 15 of them, any of them except the one called Redwall. You know what I got for Christmas? I
you
got
got
Redwall.
Redwall.
It's the stereotypical grandma gift. Well, one year I got a skateboard, which I was super excited for. But on the bottom of it, the paint thing or whatever was Pokemon, which
Nice.
no, at that time in my life, I was petrified of anyone knowing that I liked Pokemon. Our
That's
school
true.
had
Those
like,
were the times. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, elementary school, that was like a death wish if you liked Pokemon. So I had to keep it a
it really
secret.
was from
So
experience.
yeah, I played Pokemon in secret. And
hmm
and so I couldn't tell anyone about the skateboard. Or if I did, I was like, "Oh, it's so stupid. It's got this Pokemon guy on the bottom." Ugh. Even though I thought it was super cool. Classic
I
grandma.
remember, I remember on, I think it was just on in recess or whatever, in like maybe fifth grade or something. Like me and one of the mats and Andrew would play Digimon at
Mhm.
recess, and that was really cool. I mean, not like it was cool back then, but now that was pretty dumb. We would just be like, "Hi-ya!" But
You weren't afraid of nerding out in front of people. I was afraid of nerding out back then. It was only it was only when I got to college that I stopped being afraid of what people thought about my video game stuff. That was, uh, yeah, that was when people were more open and didn't care. But I just couldn't get over the peer pressure back then.
yeah, our school was like, I guess like most people at our school were. I remember like before every big football game, all the football dudes would wear their cowboy boots or whatever, and like
Hmm.
that probably says a lot about our school. Yeah, back then, yeah, nerd stuff definitely wasn't as popular. Now, like nowadays, you get like paraded for your love of Pokemon. Back then, it was like no, you're not cool.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy to think about like how just the average person has probably played Fortnite.
Oh my
Like
god, yeah.
so many more people play video games these days. It's crazy. Like uh yeah, I love it. I think it's great. It's just it would have been
Oh
nice to
yeah.
have it would have been nice if that came around a bit earlier.
Maybe we should have been the ones to bring that to the school. God damn
Wouldn't have worked. I would have lost the few friends that I had. Did you?
it.
Okay, this is like again not video game related. Did you? Because you were in a small town that wasn't from our school either. Did you find it hard to hang out with people?
A little bit. There was like, not counting my cousins, there was like maybe, honestly, maybe just two people I would hang out with when I wasn't in Haywarden or whatever. Because like there was my friend Skylar who was like 2 grades below me, I think, and then there was this kid Brandon who was also like 2 grades younger than me. No, Skylar's 2 grades older. I might have said no, 2 grades younger. My gosh, sorry. They're
Oh,
both
no worries. It's been a long time.
yeah. So they're both two grades younger than me. But yeah, it was just those two that I would hang out with, and like that's it.
I uh I had my parents were kind enough to set up a couch in our garage with a TV out there so that when me and my Ireton friends would play video games, we could do it out there. But it just almost
Nice.
if I would ever hang out in Hayward and we're saying town names, I guess it's whatever. It always
Yeah,
felt like a special occasion when I was a kid. I felt like I shouldn't be here, and
dude,
I
it
spe-
really was though.
yeah. There was one time where the Matt that we always talk about convinced me to instead of taking the bus home because we had to take buses, he was like,
Yep.
just come to my house and play games for a bit, and then take the sports bus, which leaves after all the sports practices home. And I was like,
That's
yeah,
so fun.
that's a brilliant idea. It'll totally work. And like 10 minutes into me being at his place for the first time, the bus driver had driven the bus to the house because I told someone about the plan and she was like, you have to get on this bus and go home right now. And I was like, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Oh man. I remember one time uh oh, what was it? My parents had this like RV or camper or whatever in our backyard, and we had like a tiny TV in there. And um, me and like my siblings would go and hang out in there and just goof around. But like I remember one time, Joey, who we went to school with,
Mhm.
as well as a buddy of mine, Alex, we would whenever they came down for the weekend, we would play video games in there. We played the absolute piss out of Sonic Riders 2 in
Oh
that
my.
goddamn camper. It was awesome. What do you mean why? Sonic Riders
No,
is
I
awesome.
said no, I didn't say why. I said oh
Oh,
my.
okay.
Which isn't much
Man, that was
better, but
fun. No, yeah. No, those games were awesome. We played the crap out of them. And I think it's called Marvel Nemesis. It was like
Hmm.
some Marvel beat 'em up game had like fictional heroes in it. We played the crap out of it. That was pretty good old small town living.
Yeah, yeah. We played Mario Strikers in the garage on the couch. Just there was one time where we were playing Mario Strikers, me and Mitch and Rodrigo, and
Yep.
the tornado siren started going off. And my parents' house has a crappy basement. The walls only go up halfway, and then it's like under the house. So not where you want to be for a tornado. So we were like, what do we do? And I was like, my grandparents have a fully furnished basement. Let's grab all these Wii remotes and controllers and stuff and just go over to her place. And so we did. And as we're driving, we can see the tornado off in the distance. It's like way out in the country, but still, we could see it coming down. We're like, whoa. And so we just kept going and played more Mario Strikers in my grandma's basement while there's a tornado warning.
Eventually, the
That's the
tornado went
most
away.
small town video game thing I can think of.
Oh my god, dude. Um, I remember my the cousin I would usually go play games at. There was on his GameCube. He had this like Godzilla Destroy All Monsters game, and it was basically like a Godzilla fighting game. And it was looking back, it was terrible. In retrospect, it was terrible. But back then, it was so fun. It'd just be like Mecha Godzilla versus like a three-headed what's his name, King Ghidorah, and we
Yeah,
would just
King
be like,
Ghidorah.
yeah. Awesome.
Have you ever played video games with older, this is like almost specific to the Wii, video games with older family members that don't usually play video games?
I believe so. My mom actually used to play Guitar Hero with us quite a bit, but we didn't have the guitars. We only had just the controllers, and it was on the
Oh,
PlayStation
wow.
2. But yeah, she used to play a lot of it with us just because it had like Guns N' Roses, Kansas, and stuff.
My my mom played Rock Band with me too. I forgot about this, but
Yeah.
I had all the instruments and stuff, and she didn't know how to use any of that, so she just used the microphone and would sing. So I have a specific memory of me drumming um uh oh my gosh, it's escaping me right now because I'm panicking. It was hold on. Uh
Was
Coheed,
it
Coheed
Motley
and
Crue?
Cambria.
Coding
It
Cambria,
was
okay.
what song was it? What's the most famous Coheed and Cambria song?
I know which one you're thinking about. I like where it's like dun, 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 dun,
Yeah. Welcome home.
Well, there
I
you
was
go.
playing that on drums and she was singing it in her little mom voice.
Yep.
Like one of the lyrics is
That's
"You're
a
a
little
whore
more
in sheep's
voice.
clothing," and she's like, "What are these lyrics?" And I'm like, "Keep singing. We got to pass the song."
We're gonna get fucking stars, mom. What the hell?
Um, Another one the memory that I was thinking of was I brought my GameCube to my uncle's farm in Minnesota. They don't have internet, they don't have anything there, and for whatever reason, my old uncle farmer guy liked playing FIFA soccer with me, but his video game skills were so bad that the only way to make it equal was if he played like the top national team and I played some scrub team from Ireland or something that was like half a star, and it was a lot of fun. And like I went there for the summer, came back the next summer, and they had bought their own GameCube, and they had
Nice.
Tiger Woods PGA Tour and the Sonic collection, and that was the only two
Nice.
games they ever had for the rest of their lives. They still
Golly.
play the GameCube to this day, just Tiger Woods, PGA Tour,
That's
and the Sonic collection.
awesome. I remember back in the GameCube day, or maybe I forget. I used to be like a really big Soul Calibur fan. I forget which one it
Mm,
was. I think it was Soul Calibur 2.
mm-hmm.
Um, but whenever I was really bored of it, I would just set up like little tournaments between computer players and just watch them, like put them on
Yes.
high difficulty, and they would just beat the piss out of themselves.
Yes.
And sometimes I'd have buddies over, and we'd take bets. It'd be like I bet Valdo is gonna kick the absolute shit out of Songmina, and he'd be like, no, you're on. Like you bet your ass you're on. And then Valdo would beat the crap out of Songmina. Be like, yes, yes.
Do you want to hear the stupidest thing I did as a kid? I
I'm ready.
had I had hold on, let me make sure. I gotta have the year right, or else it's nope. Was it I remember who was on the cover. Madden 2002 with the Minnesota Vikings own Dante Culpepper on the cover. Anyways,
Yeah.
I would simulate entire seasons and I would watch the games, like have it be the full time and everything. And I had a notebook where I would write down everything major that happened and I would bring it to school because you could play games into the future. And I'd bring it to school and I'd be like, this is what's going to happen this Sunday. I like wrote out when a fumble, like when who scored when, and I had just a notebook filled with all these simulated scores and things happening.
Oh
Oh
god.
man. And I did the same
Oh
thing with Smash. I would simulate tournaments and stuff. And do you want to
yeah.
know? I remembered that when I had the Switch version. I was like, oh, I'm going to do this again. I'm going to relive my childhood. Do you want to know what happens when you do that on the Switch version of Super Smash Bros?
What happens?
It instantly simulates all the matches and you can't watch them.
Oh, that's
So it just shows them going through the bracket. And I'm like, this is the worst thing you've ever done, Nintendo.
oh man. In in shop class, me, James, and
Shop
Joey.
class.
Yeah, dude. I took wood shop,
Hmm.
welding, and
You
engines or
did
motors, whatever it
welding?
was called. Yeah,
You
I did welding
madman.
twice. I know. Uh, but yeah, me, James, and Joey would do this thing. I forget what we called it. But we drew these little characters, and we would just draw them fighting,
I,
and like each of our characters had different like special abilities. Like Joey was like a pyromaniac. My dude was a psychic ninja, and James was the chosen one or whatever. And we just throw them like or draw them like throwing bombs or like calling down like Godzilla and stomping and stuff.
I'm doing the Leonardo
Stupid.
DiCaprio pointing at the screen thing right now because I remember that. You asked me for help. I remember it was your turn, and you were like, "How can I defeat them?" This is perfect. This is how we're going to end the podcast. You,
Yes.
they, you took turns. You would hand the sheet back and forth of like
Hmm.
one person would draw how they defeat it, and then it'd be the next person's turn. And you asked for what I could do, and I was like, draw them in a TV. Draw your person holding a Wii remote, and you controlling something defeating them in the video game.
I
Even if you don't
remember that
remember it,
now.
that's fine. I remember it. That happened.
That was such fun. That was such a fun time. I think I still have a notebook with all of that stuff somewhere in my mom's. It's got to be somewhere. I'm sure I have it.
And that, I think, is there anything else from the Nintendo Wii that you can think of that we didn't talk about?
Oh no, that was all I had.
Me too. So that's everything. We've completed the Nintendo Wii. There's nothing else to discuss about
There's nothing else at all.
the Nintendo
If you
Wii.
think of an idea, don't contact us because there's nothing.
You're imagining it. It was a dream. It didn't
It
happen.
really was.
Oh, what a weird system. Okay, so that's gonna be that. So what we're gonna do, since this is episode 1, we probably should have said that at the top of the show. Maybe I'll edit in myself
Oh,
saying
yeah.
that. What we're gonna do is at the end of each episode, we're gonna tease what our next episode is going to be about, so you can look forward to that. So since I picked the Nintendo Wii this week, Aaron, what is going to be our topic for next week?
The next topic is we're gonna talk about weird characters from video games or weird mechanics from video games. Both of them one. Actually, I've
Yay!
got a lot of good ones from all the goofy garbage I've played throughout the years.
Yeah, you're gonna have way more goofier stuff than I am. I know that we shouldn't really get too into it, but I know what games you do and don't play, so I'm gonna bring mechanics from games that I know you haven't played or heard of, just so you can
Awesome.
experience those.
Yes, I'm ready for that.
And you wonderful listeners, be sure to follow us on Twitter. You could email us at superpodsaga@gmail.com. I I don't know what we're doing with the Twitter account or Gmail. It's the Wild West. We're gonna post whatever. But
Yeah,
you can comment on there too.
I guess yeah. If anybody has like I guess ideas for topics or if you want to just send us photos of you and your cats, that'd be cool too.
Or dogs. I'm more of a dog
Yeah, or
person.
dogs too. Yeah, yeah, that's cool.
Otherwise, thanks for listening, everyone. Bye.
Yep. Bye.